all begin? Really as a genealogy project. I went off to Fort Rucker, Alabama to flight school in 1991, and I wasn't married yet. And I'd always been kind of fascinated with family history and genealogy, so I decided to go to a genealogy library there locally and see what I could find. I began to find, obviously, names and dates of our ancestors, but I also ran across some great stories, and particularly in the Civil War era. And I just wrote those stories down and I shared them with family members who enjoyed them and wanted more of them, obviously. So I began to dig around and try to find more things, and I began to call family members to try and get letters, stuff from family Bibles, things like that. And I compiled these things up through the late 90s. And I guess it was about 99. I was living in Virginia, and I decided to start capturing, initially in my journal, and then a little more formally, the stories of my childhood and the characters that I grew up around. I grew up at the knee of some vivid, colorful, charismatic storytellers. Old men that could put you right there in a fight, running moonshine, bootlegging, hunting, fishing. And they told these stories, and I'd sit just mesmerized at them. And over time, I could tell the stories. And I would, I'd go to school and tell all my friends the things I'd heard sitting on a porch on a Friday or Saturday night. Initially, I just wrote their stories. And then I decided later on to write of my experience as I listened to it, and then to add what kind of men they were. Essentially my grandfather's buddies. So over time, those stories added up, and family members wanted more of it. They encouraged me to write a book about it. And I really didn't think that was in the realm of feasible, I guess, until I read Pharoah Sams, Terry Kay, Rick Bragg, and I said, that's my story. Those are my people. I can do this. I can get these stories to a point, I think, where they'd be presentable in a potential manuscript. And so I tried to do that, and then I met Nancy Root, an editor, sent it off to her, got some great constructive feedback, kind of straightened the narrative out, and Tony Burton of Honey Locust was interested in it, and the result was Southern Roots. The most exciting person to recreate. My grandmother, Gertrude Walraven, certainly. And for those who know my family or have read the book, know that she's my step-grandmother. My grandmother died, Abilene Knight, at a very young age. My grandfather remarried Gertrude, who we call Ma. Ma was a wonderful woman, and that's such an understatement. There isn't a grandkid that doesn't believe that she didn't have wings and a halo. She was a wonderful storyteller in her own right, but her venue was different. It wasn't on a rocker on the front porch on a Friday or Saturday night drinking liquor. It was on a pallet in the living room floor or in her bed. She would put her hairnet on and her bedclothes, and she'd go climb into that. She's a little bitty woman. She'd go climb into that queen-size bed and call us grandkids in there. And we'd lay on our backs staring at the ceiling, and she would tell us about her childhood. And you could have heard a pin drop. We just loved listening to those stories. And the interesting thing is, after all these years, as I began filling in the gaps of my memory and wanting to broaden those experiences, I interviewed all of my cousins. And when I said, tell me something about Ma you remember vividly or that you enjoyed most, those bedtime stories were the first thing that everyone mentioned. We cherished those moments with Ma. And so I think there's an important lesson to be learned there. I certainly have tried to pay attention to that. That it was those quiet, still moments where she just shared with us her childhood that meant so much to us and that we remember fondly now. And so it was a pleasure hearing my cousins tell how they remembered her or the events that transpired. And she put up with a lot living with my grandfather and his running buddies. But there were things that happened that Chris, for example, saw that I didn't because she was older than me. And us getting the opportunity to relive those memories together and share things that each of us saw or knew from that time together was beyond rewarding. It was a great experience, and I'm so glad that I've been able to now capture it in print so that it won't die, so to speak.
I don't have a bad memory of her. I can't think of a single one. Ma would get up of a spring morning and tie her old straw sun hat on with a ribbon under her chin and make a trail across a billion dewdrop mirrors on morning grass. She'd pin sheets to the clothesline and they'd snap and pop themselves dry in a breeze. Then she'd go get them, smelling like sunshine.